All right, so let's talk about Antique Archaeology, the name of the store, the company. There's you. There's a chubby guy, Frank.
Yeah. Bearded Charmer.
Bearded Charmer.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And Danielle, back, who's kind of like, right? With all due respect, it sounds like you guys would be just completely screwed if you didn't have Danielle.
Well, I know. Well, that's the way they edit the show. I mean, I started Antique Art. I've been doing this for about 25 years, but I used to have a bicycle shop. And I was always struggling in the winter, and I was always picking to keep the shop alive. And there was a lot of things in my shop hanging on the walls, you know, old bicycles, old signs, things like that. And people would come in to see that kind of stuff, and they'd buy a bike. But anyway, so when eBay came out, I was like, what am I doing with a bicycle shop? You know, because a lot of brick and mortar stores, there was a lot of overhead. So I closed the shop, and I rented the space out, and I bought a cargo van, and I hit the road, and that was in 2000, and that's when I had to come up with a new name for my business, because I used to have a business that was called Village Bike Shop. So I just always found myself digging in the dirt. I remember there was an Indian frame one time that I found in Wisconsin, and it was in the ground, and it was froze with chicken crap. And so I found myself prying it, digging it with an axe out of the frozen chicken crap, and I'm like an archaeologist. So then I came up with the name Antique Archaeology, and got a website and a cell phone and a van, and hit the road. And that was
where did Frank and Danielle come into the mix?
Well, Frank was always somebody that I picked with. I mean, I've known him since 8th grade. You know, I've known him a long time, but Frank always had a job. I'm like, what do you have a job for? You could be doing this full time. So I really made my living on the East Coast the last probably 15 years. And when I was home, Frankie and I would pick together, and we'd also set up at flea markets together and stuff. And we've had a lot in common. So, and then Danielle, once I pitched the show for 4.5 years, and once I sold the show to History, I needed someone to do what I used to do. Like the things that you see her do, I used to do that. Okay. I used to research my trips, and I wouldn't just randomly drive to New York City or to New Jersey. I would have 5 or 6 places that I would stop. So when I sold the show, I said, I'm gonna need someone to do this. So I wanted someone that didn't look anything like they had to do with the antique business.
Right.
And I'd known Danielle for 14 years, and I wanted somebody that was obviously a girl. So I did my homework. History was 65% male viewership. So I asked her to do it, and she thought I was crazy. And then when they actually came to film the show, they wouldn't film her. They're like, you know, the deal's with you and Frank, not who is she? And I said, well, she works here. She's going to be instrumental in finding us things. And then they saw her around the shop, and they all got their iPhones out and started videotaping her, and they sent those videotapes to New York, and they're like, film her. So that's how that evolved.
Now, let me go back to something you just said a moment ago. You said you were pitching the show for like 4.5 years before they picked it up, and there were a lot of people that were naysayers that saying that nobody's going to want to watch this thing.
Yeah, they didn't think that there was enough of a market to watch a show about collectibles. I mean, even though the Antique Roadshow had done really well, and there was a show on the air at that time called Cash in the Attic, those were the only 2 collectible shows out there. And both those shows came over from England. You know, in England, this has always been a hot topic. There's about 13 shows on the air over there. And I always thought it'd be cool to show it from the picker side, because we have the best job of all. I mean, we're in the trenches, we're in the front lines, but we're actually finding it and discovering it, and there's no better route than that. There's no better story than that. So that's why I started down this journey, because I was having these amazing experiences, and I was having them on my own and by myself, and then I would come home and my friends are like, no way, you know, that didn't happen. So they're like, you need to buy a video camera and start documenting some of this stuff. So that's what I did, and I started videotaping myself, and Frank would videotape me. And I can remember standing on a gravel road, and I bought a tripod, and I was standing there in front of the camera with a tripod and just talking about the day, you know, how it went. And then I had a little sandbag on my dash, and I put the camera on my dash, and I would just drive and talk into the camera and tell, you know, I'm in Pennsylvania now and stuff. And people loved it, but they didn't love it enough to broadcast it.
Well, it's